Hmm. Interesting. Oh, what's up? I'm not even reading anything. This book's blank. That's not what we're here for. We're here to get barely relevant. And if you're new, let's go ahead and explain what that means. Hey guys, this is Geekborn, and this is the 5th episode in the Barely Relevant series, where it's essentially like the game, The 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where you take an actor or an actress from one and you follow it onto the next project, which is what we do here. So we follow Aubrey Plaza from her role in Scott Pilgrim versus the World, to one of my favorite projects she's ever done. To one of my favorite projects that she's done. The Legend of Korra. She's great in just about everything. I know. But she plays a character in The Legend of Korra as Korra's cousin. The first appearance is during season 2. We will go through and we'll talk more about that later. I know when usually I'm talking about Korra, people expect or want me to go through and say that she's trash and just praise the original series and talk about how much better that is than the show that we're watching, the show that we're talking about now. But honestly, I just want to tell you, I'm a fan of this show. It may not be as good as the original series. The original series, it's great on its own. We can't deny that, but we can't say that this show doesn't deserve any love, because Korra deserves love too. When I saw it, I wasn't the biggest fan either the first time I saw Korra. Watching her bust through the wall as a little kid in the first episode, just bending basically everything. But actually, in hindsight, that's a pretty decent introduction to her character. She's a pretty strong-headed individual with the abilities to pretty much just grab the physical forms and aspects of bending and get them down pretty easily. It's a much different approach from the original series that we watched growing up, or a lot of us watched growing up, or you might have found later. It's very different shows in their own rights. Instead of giving us a lot more of the same world, it turned on its head, which would happen after 100 years of war and new innovations that would be happening. The Fire Nation sharing their technologies, different bending nations working together, truly for the first time, probably some ever, definitely in the last 100 years. It's honestly bringing a new era of change to the world, just like the Industrial Revolution did during the 1800s in the real world. A lot of the same technologies were invented in relatively a short period of time. Everyone wants to know how the technology moved on so fast, and it's how it works whenever you get these kind of nations and whatnot working towards possible goals. Plus, it's a cartoon where your main character has a spirit grafted to her that gives her the ability to control all 4 of the elements. So you can't take everything at face value. Revisiting this show a couple years after its original premiere, when I first got to actually get into the show and give it a second look, I could see that I could relate to some of the more of the adult characters, some of the side characters like Tenzin, who's Aang's son, played by J.K. Simmons, a character we will be following after this. We'll see that in the end of the video, and we'll let you know what's going on with that. And then there's Lin Beifong, who's the daughter of Toph. And then we got the main characters, the cast of Team Avatar, who is Korra, age 17 when we see her in season 1, and she's already pretty much an established Avatar, being able to use 3 of the 4 elements, still working on airbending, which she wants to learn from Tenzin. We meet Mako and Bolin, who are brothers in their late teens. Korra eventually runs into them when she tries to go to a pro bending match.
You're the Avatar, and I'm an idiot.
Both are true.
Because bending is a professional sport now. Then we eventually meet Asami, who was added to the team after Mako gets ran over by her moped. I do want to mention there were some issues airing the show. We got the first couple of seasons on television on Nickelodeon, and then the last couple of seasons they had some issues and they decided to put it on Nick. I don't know if this cut down people watching it or if it allowed the creators of the show to go on a darker road, I guess, with some of the storyline that we got for the second 2 seasons. The first 2 seasons are pretty good. The 2 seasons that are probably the best are the ones that were airing exclusively on Nickelodeon, Nick.com, which would be the last 2 seasons. I don't know Like I said, they took a darker place with these 2 seasons, watching some actual people like the Earth Queen die, and Korra dealing with some PTSD and whatnot after being poisoned in season 4. Seeing Korra as a character, we get to see that each incarnation of the Avatar is completely different. In a way, we saw that some in the original series when Aang goes through and has his conversation with Kyoshi, and some of the other past avatars. It's weird because a lot of people are big fans of Kyoshi and a lot of people don't like Korra, but Korra essentially has the same temperament, at the very least, that Kyoshi did. Very quick to fight and whatnot, and it's hard for me to see one hate and love the other when they're pretty similar avatars. But it's cool to see avatars at length, like watching Korra, and even getting to see the story of Avatar 1 during season 2. Even though there were some issues with seasons 1 and 2, or season 2 more or less, we do get to see actions to the world, the way that things have changed over time. We get to see the tech advancements, the probe bending, but then we eventually meet the Equalists, who are a radical group of non-benders led by Amon, who is secretly a waterbender who blood bends to take people's bending away. Korra exposes him in front of a whole bunch of people, showing that he's a waterbender. But at one point she does take his bending away. She does connect with Aang and learns airbending, and gets her spirit bending from Aang so she can give the bending back to the people. In season 2, we meet some great characters like Varric, who starts out as a slimy businessman from the Northern Water Tribe, but he has a change of heart later on. We have Zhu Li, who is his assistant. We meet Korra's cousins, Desna and Eska. Eska, who is played by Aubrey Plaza, mentioned earlier. Last is their manipulative father, Unalaq, who is the uncle of the Avatar. He uses her to open the 2 spirit portals and to unlock the evil spirit that he fuses with to become an evil Avatar. And then he has a giant kaiju-style fight with Avatar Korra near a public city. We do also get to meet Tenzin's siblings, though, which is Bumi, who is the oldest. He's a general in the Navy, and most of his life he's a non-bender. And then we have Kaya, who's the second oldest, and she's a waterbender. Katara, Aang, waterbender, non-bender, airbender. You get it. The result of Unalaq and Korra's fight, though, released something that unlocked airbending abilities in a lot of people, including Bumi, which led many people to theorize that maybe it was some escaped air nomads that, had some offspring that led to these enlightenment happening later on. Season 3, we get to see the Air Nation growing as we find these new airbenders, but one of these new airbenders is Zahir, probably one of the best villains of the show, but he's the leader of the Red Lotus, which is a group that wants to kill the Avatar and restore free will, what they believe to be true free will, to the world. He and his group are currently in prison for attempting to kill Korra as a small child after finding out she was the Avatar. He breaks out with his new bending abilities. He finds his teammates. Eventually, they track down and get Korra, poison her with some poison metal that they have concocted, but she survives and he's imprisoned. This causes a lot of issues for Korra, some PTSD and whatnot. Most of the poison gets removed after the fight with some metal bending. Then we go on to see during season 3, we meet Lin's sister Sue, who lives in Zaofu, which is a metal city with a bunch of metal benders. Several times throughout the season, we get to see Kuvira, who is the villain of season 4. She appears around the metal city. She's a high-ranking member of a security team, and she's pretty close to Sue.
You can call me Kuvira.
We see that Zahir kills the Earth Queen during season 3, and Kuvira steps up to help stabilize the Earth Kingdom. She becomes a crazy dictator. She turns the Earth Kingdom into the Earth Empire, and she uses some spirit vines from the opening of the spirit portals to create a crazy powerful weapon and a crazy giant robot, super mech, to carry the giant cannon around. She eventually goes through and is taken down with the help of some other people. We had 3-4 seasons at this point, so we just go through and grab all those people, and they end up helping us without some stuff. get her taken down, and then Korra and Asami share a nice kiss and walk off into the spirit portal that was opened in this fight. After Unalaq's fight during season 2, we have a whole situation where Korra is separated from the Avatar spirit and she loses contact with her past lives. And I know that upset a lot of people. But we're watching the show quickly became like a lot of people quickly decided they weren't fans of Korra anymore. But it's been 10,000 years, this whole cycle. What if this was meant to happen? You can't continue the cycle forever. So what if she's supposed to be the start of a new 10,000 year cycle? What about the next Avatar at the end of the 10,000 year cycle? What kind of issues do you think that character is going to have whenever they get to the closing of the cycle? 20,000 years of an Avatar. I mean, you got to think that this is still thousands and thousands of years in the future. So what kind of issues is every Avatar going to face what kind of issues are a future Avatar going to face if there is an Avatar in the future, if something doesn't happen eventually to an Avatar and end the cycle? It's kind of a crazy thing to think about. Over the time, there's several characters I didn't mention that are also great. All Tenzin's kids. You should definitely see the show. I obviously recommend this show. Obviously, I recommend the original show, Avatar: The Last Airbender. It's amazing. Korra, it's not everybody's cup of tea. It's completely different than the original series, but I believe that it's something worth checking out. I had a blast revisiting it. As I do with pretty much all these properties so far with you guys. I haven't had anything that I haven't liked watching so far. We're going to continue on the train, have something fun to watch next as we follow the Avatar son Tenzin, J.K. Simmons, onto one of his most iconic roles ever in the 2002 Spider-Man, where he plays J. Jonah Jameson. Give me them pictures of Spider-Man! He's, it's something else, and it's great. It's going to be great to catch it with you guys in the next week's episode of Barely Relevant. Some of us are born geeky. You have a good one.